Hey Bearson, what's up? It's Alethea. I want to talk to you guys today about what my major is and some more information about it. So I'm specifically going to talk about secondary English education and just secondary education in general here at MSU. I am a senior in my program. I've been decided on education ever since I was a freshman, ever since I was admitted into MSU. I feel like I have a little bit of credibility. I can talk to you guys about it. I'm just going to kind of talk to you from the perspective of a student, and I'll leave all of the super serious information that you're gonna need to know down below, and you guys can go to MSU's website and get so much more, like technical info and other things like that, like course lists and whatnot. But right now I'm gonna kind of just answer some pretty basic questions I have gotten just from asking around when it comes to the topic of what is secondary education and what does it look like at MSU. So the first thing you basically need to know when you're deciding to be a secondary education major is what is your subject field going to be. So that can be math, English, social studies, whatever it may be. Any subject that most major public high schools offer, that is a major for you. It's kind of cool because for me, I'm a secondary English major, so I get to learn all about English and all about how to teach it and how to be a teacher in general. I think English and education are two of the absolute best programs MSU has to offer, and we have amazing professors. I cannot stress enough, the professors in both English and ed that I've had are literally out of this world. They are awesome. So that's important to know, because whatever your subject field falls under, that is also the list of classes you will have. So once you're a freshman and a sophomore and you get those gen eds out of the way and you really start getting into your coursework or your major courses, you really start to kind of understand what it's like to be an education major but also be in secondary, so that you have two different realms that you belong to. So for me, like I said, I'm in the English realm and then also just education. That is because secondary, you always have to have a subject field, as I stated before. So this is from 6 to 12, and that is basically the grades that always have different subjects, and you're either certified to teach middle school or you're certified to teach high school. I am personally 9 through 12, but I also have classes with people who are specifically English 6 through 8 or 6 through 9 majors. So before you are an education major, there is a list of things that you need to be admitted into the College of Ed. So you can obviously declare that major, but there are prerequisites, which is basically just getting through your gen eds. And like I said, I will have the link down below so that you guys can go read all of that. I can definitely make a video covering all of that super technical information about being admitted into the College of Ed and what it really entails when it comes to coursework. But I kind of want to give you guys the student perspective, like I said, and kind of just give you an overview intro into the College of Ed. Once you're admitted, you do kind of go through a few different advisors. I personally have had 3 advisors. I have like a main advisor, my advisor that I go to from like freshman to sophomore year, and then about junior, senior years when you start really working with one professor. And that professor you will have for 405, which is a really important class that you learn basically how to teach reading, and that is the class you take right before your semester of student teaching. And like I said, I will link all that information down below, because MSU's website will tell you everything and more that you need to know about the classes and whatnot when it comes to College of Ed. So I kind of just want to talk to you guys about some really important tips and just things to think about if you're considering to be a teacher. For me, I had a lot of different interests in high school. I was able to go observe middle school classrooms, and I knew I was kind of interested in teaching, and I got to teach middle schoolers, but that is where I realized that teaching middle school definitely wasn't for me. My personality type was just so much better with high schoolers, and I think that's something definitely to consider. So if you guys are, if you're in high school watching this and you're thinking about being a teacher, and especially if you're thinking about coming to MSU to be a teacher, I think it's really important to try to kind of put your toes in the water of working with certain groups of kids, whether that's a tutoring program or you're working at the Boys and Girls Club or something similar to that. Anything that you can possibly get your experience around, whether that's through your school or anything outside of your high school, it's super important, because it kind of can just make this decision a little bit easier for you, and you can decide if you want to be in middle school, elementary school, or secondary high school. I think another thing that you should consider before you look into MSU's education program is obviously your subject field. That's super important when it comes to secondary. I can't speak too much on elementary elementary just because that's not my major. But I think if you love your subject of history or you love your subject of science, PE, family and consumer sciences, English, whatever it is, if you really have a passion for that, kind of like put on a list of things that you would love to do with that. So if you love English, what is your philosophy of how you think people should be also loving English? How are you possibly going to teach it? And the same thing with any other subject. I think that's really important to think about because you will have to work with that idea a lot, duh. And I think it's super important to kind of get that down and kind of get it in your head, because if you don't always know what your initial journey will be, that's okay, but it's definitely something to consider once you decide on wanting to be a teacher. And same thing with elementary education at MSU as well. So another thing I want to talk about is when you will be in a classroom. So when do you begin that shadowing? You know, I think when people think of education majors, they think of student teaching, but there are actually two other observation slash field work experiences you have before your student teaching, because student teaching is the end all be all. It is your final evaluation and it is a big deal. That's when you're in a classroom that you are placed in. But before that, you have two classes that will initiate practicum hours or field experience. The first one is SEC 302. Again, for secondary majors, that is a class that puts you in a classroom that's around Springfield area or maybe a little bit outside of Springfield. Mine was in Ozark, Missouri, which is about like a 25-30 minute drive from Springfield, and I would go there kind of on my own time. You have a certain amount of hours you have to meet, so just make sure you're thinking about that and managing that really well and thinking about if that is manageable for you. So I think the first one, it is 35 hours. That might have changed since I was a sophomore, but for me it was 35 hours. And then this semester you have a 45-hour practicum or field experience, and we actually were not able to go in classrooms because of COVID, but normally it's the same ordeal. You get placed in a classroom and you just get a little bit more time with that mentor teacher with that class than you do in SEC 302. So that is in 405 and then SEC 302. And aside from student teaching, another super big thing that you have to do is pass your MOCA, or at least attempt it before your student teaching, which is something that if you are a freshman, don't even worry about it right now, but it is just really good to know. So again, that will also be linked down below, and I want to keep this video kind of short, just an intro into education, and I am going to encourage you guys to absolutely ask me questions down below, because I could have made this video probably 30 minutes long, and I wanted to kind of just hit a few different topics, a few different questions to get my audience thinking about what you guys are wondering. So let me know down below in the comments what you guys think about secondary education, any questions you have about it, any questions about MSU's education program, anything else you can possibly think of, let me know and I will answer them in my next video about my major, because I really want to get those out before and during my student teaching so I can really help everyone who wants to be an ed major. So this was super fun making this video. Make sure you're looking out for other members of the Bears Den on MSU's Instagram, so make sure you're following them. Check the description for my personal information as well. Make sure you guys are subscribing. I will see you in my next video.